So today we have the Edpuzzle for rotation. So first things first, we have the COR, or the center of rotation. And this is a fixed point where an image turns around. So this means it doesn't move. That's a fancy way to say fixed. Rotation is when a figure turns around that center of rotation. And so for the most part, we're going to be using an origin for today. Now, we got a couple of things we got to do before we do an example. First things first, 360 degrees makes a full turn around. 270 degrees makes a 3/4 turn around. 180 makes a half turn around. And then 90 degrees makes a quarter turn around. So a 3/4 turn would be where I turn it all the way back around onto itself. A 270 turn would be like turning it to the side. 180 would be going from the top to the bottom, or from the side to the other side. That's 180. So 90 degrees is a quarter turn, so it goes like that. Or it can go like that. Okay? Now, counterclockwise is when we go towards the right, or towards the left, and this is considered positive degrees. And then clockwise goes towards the right, and this is considered negative degrees. Okay? Now, we got some rotation rules. Now, this doesn't cover all possible rotations in general, but for us, this will cover the rotations we are going to use. There might be a challenge problem where I might not use these beautiful numbers that we have written here. So in the first one, if your center of rotation is 0, 0, your angle of rotation is 90 degrees or negative 270, because these are the same Z's, then your pre-image goes XY to negative Y, comma, X. If your center of rotation is the origin and you go 180 degrees or negative 180 degrees, these are the same thing, then your pre-image changes to negative X, comma, negative Y. With your origin as the center of rotation, and if you rotate 270 degrees or negative 90 degrees, these are the same thing, then your pre-image changes to Y, comma, negative X. If you have a center of rotation at the origin and you go 0 or negative 360 degrees, your pre-image stays exactly the same. Okay, so be careful. Now, it's very important, no matter what the center of rotation is, your original and the new points are going to be the same distance from the center of rotation. And we talked about that in our intro to rotations the previous day. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are first gonna rotate the pre-image 90 degrees around the origin. So I'm gonna use the color green because that's how I roll. And 90 degrees means I am gonna go counterclockwise. Now, I know the prime notation. I found that in my notes earlier. And the notes earlier say my prime notation goes X, comma, Y to negative Y, comma, X. So this means that my X and Y flip their locations and the Y will change its sign. I'm gonna write out what the ordered pairs are for each of my original points. So we got negative 4, comma, negative 5. My B is negative 4, comma, 1. My C is negative 1, comma, 1. Okay, so using my rule, my A prime, so this says to move the Y to the front, so I'm gonna move this 5 to the front, but it also says to change the sign, so this is gonna become negative. My x moves to the back, but it doesn't change. So this is going to stay at -4. So I'm going to graph this. -5, -4. Here's a prime. My b prime, so the original b is -4, comma 1. So y moves up to the front, but I change its sign based on my prime notation rule. And the x moves to the back, but it doesn't change. So this becomes, so this is -1, comma -4. So there's my b prime. C prime is next. So the original C is -1, comma 1. That 1 for the y moves up to the front, but it changes signs. And the x moves to the back, but it does not. And here's my C prime, -1, -1. And I'm gonna connect all these dots. Okay? Now you can use a protractor. So an example of 1 point, I know I wrote them all out, but I'm just gonna do A. So A was -4 to 5, and it changed for A prime, and it became -5, comma -4. Bada boom. For the next one, we have a pre-image of -90 degrees. So this means I'm gonna go in that direction. Okay, and I'm gonna use pink. Okay, so the rule we have for when it's -90 degrees from the notes above is we go x, y to y, comma, -x. So this time they're gonna flip locations, but we change the sign of the x. So what I'm gonna do this time is I'm gonna write one example point first. So I'm gonna use A again because it's already there. So A becomes -4, comma 5, or is -4, comma 5. My A double prime, because it told us to use double prime, is going to be, so Y moves to the front, so the 5's up front, X moves to the back and changes signs. So this becomes a +4. So I'm gonna graph that right now. So we have 5, comma 4, 5, comma 4. So here's A double prime, because it says to rotate from the pre-image, the original one. Okay, so we did that. Now let's do B. So I'm gonna write out B prime here, double prime. So we have -4, 1 for the original. So 1 moves to the front without changing. -4 moves to the back and becomes positive. So we have 1 up 4. Here's my B double prime. C double prime. So we got originally -1, comma 1. So that 1 for the Y moves up front and stays. This -1 moves to the back and changes. So we got 1, 1. So here is my rotation of the triangle that we were given, -90 degrees. Now I can use a protractor to make sure I went 90 degrees. All right, so again, just like we did the last class here, I put my middle at the origin and I make sure my 0 line connects to one of the points. Okay, so it doesn't matter which, so I gotta make sure it's all lined up here. All right, so everything's lined up, and see how my 90 degree right here hits at the C that is 90 degrees away. So that means I did good going clockwise. And when I do it counterclockwise, I can check there too. So I'm gonna rotate my protractor, make sure everything gets all lined up here. All right, so my 0 line passes through at the C. My middle is at the origin, and see how my 90 degree line passes through the C, the green C, when I went counterclockwise. So that is how I can check my work using a protractor, make sure everything is going well. All right. So that's the end of this video. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and continue with the rest of your problems.